Welcome to Signal, the podcast that raises your frequency. I'm Mory Fontanez, purpose and intuition coach.
And I'm Melissa Grushka, and I have 0.0 million followers.
And this week, we are so excited. We have Dylan Mulvaney here for a special conversation. Bean, are you ready to talk to her?
I am the most excited, I think.
All right, let's do it. Bean, This is a special week.
It's the most special week we've had yet, I have to say. I've loved every episode, but I'm super excited.
Super excited. And in fact, we're not going to bullshit with our cringe or delight moment up front. Okay. We're just going to get right into it because we have someone very special waiting for us. Without further ado, the incomparable content creator and actress, Dylan Mulvaney, is here with us. Dylan!
Oh my God, now I'm nervous. What a build-up.
We are so excited. Welcome.
Me too. Me too. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so Dylan, before we get into hearing all about you, which we are dying to hear, Bean and I do this thing every episode where we just fill each other in on our week, and we get to pick either something cringy that happened or something delightful that happened and share it. So we're each going to do it. Do you want to start as our special guest? Do you have a delight or a cringe moment?
I would love to start. Actually, my delight moment has something to do with you, Mory, because, and it started, I will say we had a potential hurricane situation here in Los Angeles this past weekend. And I really, I was so scared to be at home by myself. I thought this was going to be, the way they were talking about this hurricane, it really felt dramatic. And so I called Mory just because I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Mory was like, come to my house. Like, just get in the car, come to my house. And I spent an amazing weekend with you and your family. We saw the Barbie movie. I haven't had that sense of like family connection in a long time. Like it was so lovely. And it kind of reminded me that like, oh, there are good people out there and there's love and I'm still thinking about the Barbie movie like every second ever. I need to go see it. Well, they just said that it's coming out in IMAX, so I want to go see that. That's in like 3 weeks.
Yes.
So that was my like sweet moment of the week, I would say.
Oh, Dylan, I love you. That was really sweet. You. And we were my cringe moment is actually associated with that trip because that was my delight, is that Dylan was here, and Dylan is an incredible performer and my daughter's an aspiring performer. And I begged and asked if they could please sing a Broadway duet for me in the living room, which they did.
Does anyone have this on tape? Did anyone record this for me? Just for me, just private viewing. A private viewing.
Well, wait, was that your cringe moment, Mory?
No.
Oh,
that was my delight.
Oh,
I'm going to get to my cringe moment. That was delightful. I literally cried. Dylan was like, wow, I did not realize you are such a stage mom. I was crying.
And she kind of like is really good at hiding it because she'll do she's such a good, like, I really want to hear I want her to sing for you. And then all of a sudden she's sitting there like edge of her seat. She's like, another song. And I'm
not
like
surprised.
I was like, I came here to heal and to like have a glass of wine. Like all of a sudden I'm doing my entire repertoire.
She's like, dance monkey.
I was like,
it was so delightful. And when Dylan turned to her and said, wow, you're really talented. And the way her just like, she lit up. That was like, that was a gift she'll never forget. My cringe moment is I did not realize this had happened until I picked up my son from school, but it was their first day of school the next day. Right. So he has this little friend who's in 8th grade, a year older than him. And so when I went to go pick him up, I was like, what did you do? How was your day? And he's telling me everything and goes, and she really liked the video I sent her of Dylan. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? So when I was not around, my son asked Dylan to send a little hello to this friend. What a flex. He had a video being...
I think I did maybe two different friends, actually. I'm not on Cameo.
Oh my God.
I'm not on Cameo, so you do have to catch me in person if you want like a birthday message or something like that. But and then presenting at the Streamies and I'm up for a Streamy Award. And he went through the list of all the different people that are going to be attending the awards and was like, all right, can you get a high key on video for me? So he's really hoping that I will get some like amazing celebrity videos for him this weekend. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if that pans up.
He was not shy to ask Dylan for favors. So that was my little bitty cringe moment. But Dylan was really sweet about it. But the fact that it happened and I didn't know was...
I
loved it. I loved it.
All right, Bean, you're up. What do you got?
Mine can't be more boring compared to the two of you. Mine is so boring and kind of pathetic all at the same time. My kids usually all start school. My youngest one is in private school and their schedule usually follows the public school schedule. And my older two don't start for another week and a half. And I just found out like 2 days ago that my son actually starts on Monday, which I wouldn't have known had his friend not come over and told me. I would have never sent my son to school on Monday.
And it's kindergarten, right?
And it's his big day of kindergarten.
Aww,
I almost feel like you should cut this from the cast because your stories were way better and way more fun. And I'm like, I kind of also school.
It would have been epic, like if you did go an entire 2 weeks without it, like, and then like just kind of dropping, them off the first day. Hey,
totally. Hey guys,
I think he'll live. That's what I relate. Moms make mistakes.
It was me. I felt bad. I felt like I cried actually because I couldn't believe. What? Shocking that I cried.
Yeah,
a real shocker. I just couldn't believe that I had no idea. This is the first year that they are starting at a different time, in my defense. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, great. Okay. Well, Dylan, thank you for being such a good sport and playing Delight or Cringe with us. Let's get right to it, shall we? We're very excited to talk to you. Are you in?
I'm in.
All right, Dylan. So I think the first question for you is, you have been a content creator for some time. You were making content prior to 365 Days of Girlhood. Then you started this amazing series. And I think the question is, did you expect to blow up the way you did? But also, when you did, that probably was a massive shift. Like, can you talk to us about what that shift was like, going from a content creator to someone who is so famous?
Thank you. I don't always feel that way. I think it still kind of feels like a mirage, but I remember within the first like 20 days or so, I had like 1 million followers, and no one can really prepare you for that. It feels very fast and furious, because if I were to have like booked a movie, I would have had like years before that would come out. There's some preparation. And then even when it comes out, you don't know if it's going to be a hit or not. And I think with these, especially TikTok specifically, like that app can blow up just normal people in ways that I don't think any other platform, maybe YouTube, could in the past, but it just happened really fast. And I was in therapy at the time, so at least I had that, but also my therapist was like a gender specialist, and, he didn't have any other clients in the spotlight and was kind of like, you're on your own, kid, in the nicest way possible. And I think I was in a really good headspace when I started, because there was so much emotional, mental work before that all, I started putting myself on blast like that. But I kind of think, there's only like a level of like preparation you can really make for something like that. And I had no idea the opportunities that could come from social media. It was just kind of like a fun, I was doing stand-up comedy at the time. And so I felt like it was a way to like be funny more publicly and not have to drive around for 5 minutes all over LA to get a spot. So it became something very different than I expected, but I just am really grateful that so many things have come from it, mostly good, some bad too. But I also think there was a lot of shame initially of like, oh God, am I an influencer? What does that even mean? And now I'm actually like going to the Streamies this weekend. I'm like kind of proud of that. Like I love that I have this unexpected community, the outside of the trans community, that it's, you know, my content creator community. And I think as I'm kind of going through some of these new doors into like mainstream Hollywood and finding myself in these positions where I'm like, oh, I can help advocate for this group of people too, because I think so often there is still a stigma attached to that. And these are some of the most talented people ever. I mean, we're seeing TikTokers get nominated for Grammys and publish books, and there's so much there. Yes. And it's like we have a shot at getting to those things because of this platform.
That's beautiful.
That is really awesome. Super awesome. And I was thinking about, for people who are filming movies, they have huge teams around them, and you really did this on your own. I mean, you had your therapist, but your support system was mostly you, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, I sort of built it as the situation has kept growing, and even, you know, Mory came into my life through some celeb friends of mine, and that was like, it was funny. I went to my agency and was like, hey, is there any like mental health professional that I can talk to that like deals with like people in the spotlight? And even they were like, we have to think about that. And then now I actually went back to my agent. I was like, you got to just start sending people to Mory when they come asking.
Totally. Yes.
It's such a specific thing. And
really
I think as much as like I have the lawyer, I have the business manager, I've got the agents, you need that sort of mental help as well, because some of the stuff that we're navigating, it's different than PR. It's different than contracts. It's like truly your well-being. And I think that is one of the most important parts of my team.
And social media is so brand new. There's no, you know, we are the guinea pigs of all of this. So it must be even more challenging in that regard.
Well, I think about like, I'm like, how am I going to do this in 40 years? Just like, it's been a little over a year of like being viral. And I think that these apps will ebb and flow, and then the next thing will come out. And so my goal right now is to start creating off of these platforms so that I feel not completely indebted in every single way to them. You know, I think there's ways to diversify ourselves as creators, and we need to be smart. I mean, TikTok looked like it was going to be banned there for a second.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's some people who exclusively make their living from that app. So I think we just have to get smart about where, you know, we start not putting every egg in one basket.
Dylan, question, just as we're talking about building this public platform, I mean, knowing how difficult it is to exist as a trans person in our world, sadly, how or why did you decide to do this in such a public way, in the spotlight in this way?
Well, I never expected it to be quite as vulnerable or as eyebrow raising, or I also had never seen someone start from the very beginning. And I thought that was sort of a unique aspect of it. And looking at these trans women that I so deeply admired. But, you know, there's even like, even if I were to be able to get in touch with, you know, trans women that early on, there's still kind of an initial intimidation, just because you're like so enamored by them. You're so impressed. You're so proud of them for finding themselves that you don't want to force them to help you. And so it felt very isolated and solo at the beginning when I started making those videos. And then it did end up bringing me a lot of community along the way. And I don't regret, you know, putting myself on blast like that. I think there are moments that I wish that I had maybe savored something a little longer for myself. I think of, you know, just there's so much vitriol right now towards the community that, you know, you have to be really careful about how you talk about certain things, or make sure that, you know, everything is ready to go out there. But generally, I'm hoping that from my content, those, you know, humans out there, whether they're trans or not, that are, you know, transitioning into something in their life, feel a connection. They can see the baby steps, And now as all these other things are happening, I really hope that my audience feels like they can see the growth and they can see the evolution, because I'm a very different person than I am over a year ago. And I think that's part of the beauty of showing it online as well.
We talk a lot actually on our podcast about parasocial relationships. And you just mentioned that you are out there for everybody. How does it feel being a role model for so many people?
That still has not clicked for me, but what an honor. I think I mostly get confused. Like I'll be out, even last night at a bar, and these gals will run up to me and they'll like immediately hug me, which sometimes I get nervous about, because when someone's walking towards you, like running you're like, wait, your brain is trying to comprehend what's happening. But
happens to me all the time.
Yeah, that is my one note to my followers is sometimes spatial awareness. But other than that, I always love a hug. I love a hug, and I think that if one person gets something out of a video of mine and like feels like they can be closer to who they are, then this is all worth it to me. And I get so many DMs of people saying, I came out to my family with your video, or me and my mom are watching your stuff. And that does feel really good, because I think there's still so many people in my life that I'm trying to connect with and to show that like I have worth, and that like I am going to be okay despite my transness. And so it feels really nice to like not like prove to them, my family, my friends, that like there's value in what I'm doing, but that like if I'm sometimes not getting like the love and acceptance that I want from like a certain entity in my life, I can go, oh, but there is love and acceptance here. And that's why the internet right now, especially these past few months, I don't know if y'all have noticed, it feels like a bloodbath as far as the way people are creating videos about others, the way that everything has to have a crazy hook line. And I think like we just have to be really careful about what the internet can become when so much of it is already that. So I really want to continue pushing the joy aspect, pushing the comedy. I mean, there's so much, like some of the stuff that I've been through this last few months has been so ridiculous that like you have to laugh about it. And I think like, Mory, I've had a lot of cries with you, but now like sometimes like I feel like we're starting to get in sessions where like I'll like be like, okay, and that's just absolutely crazy, like just like have a laugh. And that's when the healing is actually happening. So that's where I feel like I'm at right now.
I was just going to say, I think the joy you bring is so infectious. I noticed when I'm with you, people approaching you and hugging you immediately. And I have to say, it was jarring to me too, because I felt like, am I supposed to get in front of them? Like, do you need some kind of barrier? But I think it's because you're such a light that people are just magnetized to you. They can't stay away is what I notice when I watch people just come towards you. It's the joy you put in the world, and our world needs this joy so desperately right now. So I think you're like the sunshine to people.
Thank you. Maybe it's the blonde.
I do love the blonde. I meant to say I love the blonde. I think it's perfectly fitting. I think you should continue with the blonde. I absolutely adore it.
Also, Melissa, fun. I'm really liking what you've got going on. I actually think we can add, I think we can add a little money piece even more up in front, a little blonder.
I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little blonder, and it seems to have gone down a little. And now I'm thinking for the fall, why not go a little darker?
Go a little darker. Drink the pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, you get it.
Get the sweaters out, and then next summer we'll circle back on. Circle back.
I'll find you. We'll be blonde twins together next summer.
Deal.
I'm jealous.
No, don't be. Your hair looks amazing today too.
Thanks.
I do. Speaking of Mory and how amazing she is, I wanted to know what drew you to her in the first place? What drew you to working with her? I mean, I know the gifts very well, but I always love to hear from an outside perspective what pulled you in.
Mory, I'm going to ask, do you think Alok's okay with me saying that they connected us? Okay. Love that. Okay, so it's crazy how the universe also works. Like timing is so insane. I had like asked my agents, like I had told you before, hey, do you have like a mental health professional for someone in the spotlight? And they were like, we'll circle back on that. And then Alok had invited me to dinner via Instagram DM because we have a very good mutual friend, Jonathan Van Ness. And I was kind of nervous to go on this like friend date because Alok is so wise and they feel like a prophet, and I just didn't know if like I was too camp for them, to be honest. And so I was a little nervous, but we sat down and like I kind of just opened up. Like I am a very open book, but I think with them, what I wanted them to leave with was that I am so much more than just this content, especially because I had such an admiration for them and a respect that I wanted them to see a deeper side to me. And so we sat down, I immediately start going through like I think this was maybe like September of last year. So I had been, through a few qualms online, and Alok sat there, very quietly listening, and then was like, all right, you need Mory. And then pulls out their phone, like connecting the emails. And now what I've realized about that moment is that Alok does not do that with everyone. Like no. Alok is very specific about who they send to you, as am I. And I really think that to me was like Alok's first, other than inviting me to dinner, like show of love. And I now know that like the way that they show love is through like acts of service or connection or networking or doing things for others, like for their friends, in a way that's so different than like how I show love. But that was like them connecting us was love for me. And then our first session, I think I just remember being like, who is this lady? But
sorceress.
And it was fun because obviously the work takes a bit to get into, but I was so dropped in so fast because I was looking for exactly what Mory has to offer. And so it came really easily. And I think you have to want to be there. You have to want to put the time and the effort in. And I noticed a lot of it too is like, it's less of, it is, yes, what you're doing between sessions, but it's, and how you're processing things without Mory, but it's also how willing you are to like show up during those moments, like, and go all the way rather than, cause I think that's one of the hardest things about, because working with Mory isn't necessarily therapy. There's aspects of, talking about your life that feel that way. But I remember when I was in therapy, with my gender specialist, and I would get like, you start like rearranging things so that you don't sound like a crazy person, or you start, saying things that you're like, oh, I'm so embarrassed to tell him this, so I'm going to say it happened this way. When I started working with Mory, I made a decision that I would show her everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because what I was doing online was trying to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I wanted to have that same energy, but even in a much deeper context with like my helper, with my team. And so it's been just like a beautiful, what's like over almost a year, like we're coming up on our year anniversary. Yes. And I'm very grateful.
I can't tell you how much I love hearing people talk about my best friend like this. It brings me so much joy. I'm like, yes, say more. Tell me more about how great she is. Is it what you thought it would? Yeah, you get weird.
I get so uncomfortable. I'm like shrinking in my chair.
Yes. No, I'm like creating a certificate for you. Yeah.
Let it happen. That was your advice.
Yeah. So was it what you thought it was going to be when Alok put you guys together?
I think we got woo-woo really fast, which I love. Like I've got my yoga teacher certificate, like in like the junior
I didn't know
year.
that.
And that's not woo-woo. Girl. I hate to break it to you.
Are we we still have things to learn about each other?
Yes.
the junior year of college, I was like, I think it was like some bad boy breakup moment or something. And I was like, I need to go to yoga training and find myself. And so I bought all the crystals. Oh my God, funny enough, Mory gave me a love bracelet this weekend. And when I was at her house, and it didn't go with my outfit last night. So I put it in my purse. It's still in my purse. Don't worry. I didn't lose it.
I thought you were going to say it shattered.
No. Oh my God. I had another love bracelet that just shattered actually behind Mory where she's filming right now. But
yes.
This guy was like this guy in like an all white suit, kind of walks up to me in the bar last night, and he had all of these crystal bracelets on, and was like, I was like, what's that one for? And he's like, that one's for energy. And then I was like, what's that one for? He's like, that one's for sleep. And then I was like, oh well, and then I pulled my giant bracelet out of my bag, and I was like, well, this one's for love. And
wow.
And he was just like, whoa.
You had like a crystal walk off.
I did. And then I was like, but I'm not putting it on for you, babe. Like, yes. But getting back to the question at hand is that I think what I loved about Mory was that I could tap back into my woo-woo a little bit. And I really felt like I think what happens in the industry so often is you try to be so realistic sometimes that you lose parts of yourself that are potentially really helpful. And one of those for me was like my spirituality, was my connection to, mystical things, to emotions that I was scared to tap into. Like even recently, we've been exploring anger, which is something that I hadn't really felt many times throughout my life. So wow. I think it's just a great kind of place, and how fun that, like, because Mory isn't my therapist, we can go see the Barbie movie with her family, and yes. And I think there's some really great beauty to that as well.
Oh, Dylan, you know what? Thank you. And I love that. I appreciate the credit you're giving me. I do have to say, you are one of the clients that I have that you said this, like, tapped into your inner wisdom almost instantaneously. And it was like magic. Like I got goose cam. Is that a word you guys have heard?
What?
Goose cam?
I've never heard it in my life.
You're making it up right now. It's
people
called
use it. I swear.
Bro.
No. People say goose cam. Look it up. Both. Yeah.
Is this what the kids are saying?
No. Goosebumps. Because you dropped in so quickly to what I call is your higher self, really is your intuitive wisdom, your intuition. You're so connected to it. It's so easy to get you there. Wow. And it was such a reminder to me of the kind of work I want to be doing. I think I said to you, Dylan, after starting to work with you, you're reminding me that I don't want to pull people so hard to this anymore. I want to work with the people who are ready to drop in. But my question is, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say that I don't think this is the work is like of worth unless you really want to be there. And what I've found throughout my life is like the most successful moments of like evolution and growth have come from when I've gone actually out to look for it, and less of like it being forced onto me. I mean, it's like the same thing. I think I just went through something where, oh my God, it was at that dinner. We had a dinner last week. Yeah. Where, there was a group of like people that had been through a specific situation that I hadn't, and they were all giving me advice where I felt like I would do something differently and I wanted to, but they were like, don't you dare, be the strong woman you are. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm kind of losing this moment of learning for myself, because I'm, and not that I loved the advice. I loved hearing from these people because they were so right, but I almost needed to like live that experience. And so I think with the work that we've done, it's the same thing of it has to be an equal exchanging of energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, because you are able to tap into this intuitive wisdom so easily, if it's harder or easier with all the public pressure and being in the spotlight like you are to hear that intuition. Is it harder to tap in? Is it easier? What's it like with that added pressure on?
Okay, well,
with that face.
If you aren't watching the podcast, the face I just made was like I was being stabbed by like a murderer.
Oh, I couldn't tell if you were excited or scared. I guess you make a funny face when you're scared.
I guess I'm a one-trick pony. I think intuition as someone in the public eye feels damn near impossible because you get clouded with so many other things, like a checklist of what not to do, what not to say. So I think when you hear your intuition and it tells you to do something that's not in line with like what your PR team thinks or what your brand is, or like I think in those moments you sometimes push your intuition aside because you're thinking as like a business strategist and not as like a human being. And what we talk about a lot, Mory, is this idea of celebrity 2.0. Like, is it possible to like succeed in this industry while also being a good person and by like holding yourself accountable and the people that you work with accountable? And I think for me, my favorite moments of this past year, and when I think I've really showed up for my audience, is in those moments where like I didn't listen to whatever I was being told, whether it was my business mind or my team or anyone. It was my intuition and knowing that I needed to do something, or knowing that I needed to take a stand, or that it's scary for someone like me because I did not grow up like that at all. I mean, before I transitioned, I was so unopinionated. I had opinions. I was just terrified to share them. And now there are things that will sit on my chest, and I'll go to Mory's like to a session. I'll be like, I really think I need to say this is coming up. I need to say this. And I think as I get more successful, sometimes I hold back a little bit or it's just frustrating when you can't, get on and say your full 2 cents. But I do think that I am still in a place where intuition is involved in everything that I do. And we go like, we talk about full body yeses. And I'm even like, I was doing so much in this last year, like that was offered to me, and I was thinking like, oh, I should want to do this because there are other people that want to do this, and I should be so lucky. And because I thought that like my success was an accident, because I couldn't really understand why people enjoyed me so much, and that they were going to wake up and realize that I wasn't actually lovely or like worthy of this. So I was taking so many things. I was doing so much that wasn't actually in alignment with like my higher self or who I was. And now it's sort of funny. Right now I'm looking up at this board. I put a board of all the things that I've got coming through the pipeline right now. And like, I want to say like 95% of them are full body yeses. And so I've gotten to a place where I can say no. No is a very powerful word. And I'm instead of doing like 25 things, I'm doing like 8. And that also feels really good.
Love it.
First of all, I would like to say you are worthy. We're all worthy. Everyone is worthy. And I want to know if you've gotten any great, other than Mory, who gives the best advice, if you've gotten any other great advice along the way that's really helped you, or actually, how about any advice that's like been counterintuitive?
I think the positive advice will come from Alok. It comes from Our Lady J, who's an amazing trans writer, director in the industry. It's such a specific group of people, very limited as far as, trans people actually working and being hired in these spaces. And so I think there is a sense of camaraderie there. I really want to help move that along as well. But I think as far as maybe not the best advice, I think I have to be careful taking advice from people who aren't actually doing what I'm doing, because it's one thing to be a voyeur online and to take in content, but when you aren't making content every day like I am, or when you aren't used to a Gen Z audience and what they need and what they expect, I think that sometimes fear enters the chat just because of the unknown. Like we said, these apps are so new. There's still so much that we haven't figured out yet. And we don't know what's healthy and what's not. And I think that's where I have to go back to intuition, because as much as someone can tell me, hey, you shouldn't post about this. But then if I go back and really think about my audience and what they need and how I have set up this relationship, I know that I have to. So that's, it's sometimes making some difficult decisions, but I don't feel regretful about anything.
I love that. Well, listen up, because I'm about to give you some advice.
Okay.
I'm totally kidding.
Actually, you know what? I love that you're talking the question about getting advice, and I love your answer. I'm so excited to hear you say it's so easy for people to sit behind a keyboard and shout at you and tell you what they think you should be doing without existing in your life and in your body and in what you're trying to do for the world. So we're going to go here for a minute, because we just navigated something pretty intense recently. And you navigated something very intense. And so thank you in advance for being willing to talk to us about it. Yes. I know you haven't talked about it a lot. I really actually just want to talk about your inner journey around it. My first question is, can you share with our listeners what it's been like for you to be a political lightning rod, to be used as such a scapegoat in what recently happened?
There is nothing that could have prepared me for what has happened this last year, and being in the media. I had experienced a certain level of vitriol, nothing compared to what happened in April, but the political portion of it specifically is what throws me, because I grew up in a very conservative household. I know how to connect and have relationships with people who don't see eye to eye on everything with me. And so that was what I think was really confusing, was seeing all these people that my family, has supported come out against me publicly. Not my family, these people on TV and on these extremist news stations or publications. And it was, I just couldn't understand why we couldn't see eye to eye. Like I really was like, I felt this deep sadness, because me and my family have this great connection now. We've really learned from each other. They're still evolving a lot. I am too, but there's a respect there. And what feels so evident in the media is that there's such a lack of respect for anyone in the spotlight. And you hear like someone will be like, oh, well, you signed up for this, or, you put yourself out there, so this is what comes with that. But I don't believe that true hatred and violence and threats have anything to do with like, I signed up for that. And I think that what's really dangerous is that these people that are on the news, that have these big platforms that are trying to convince people to not enjoy someone like me or to support someone like me. I'm less concerned about what their connection is to me specifically, but what their followers are willing to go out and do. And there's been many days where I've laid in bed scared that I might not wake up the next day, or just because of the messages that I get or the warnings. And it's so heartbreaking that we're in a time where people feel so comfortable being this transphobic. And I was actually, I was at a friend's house. She's a very notable actress. And she was just saying, she was like, I really feel like they're trying to convince us allies not to support someone like you. And I said, you nailed it on the head, because if they can get our allies to turn on us, then we'll be even that less protected. And those opportunities will continue to go away. And what we saw during Pride Month this year was people getting scared and not knowing how to show up for us. And so I think right now I'm trying to figure out what to ask for, not from my audience, from allies, because I think there are people that are willing to show up and they need a little direction. But there's a lot of people too who have gone quiet, and we know, like I was just thinking about, you know, some of these major arena tours, like Beyonce just said trans is beautiful in front of 70,000 people, and then on the internet now millions, and how epic that is for us. And that, like, something so easily said, which actually it can be very difficult when you're in that place of power, and the potential of, oh my gosh, am I going to lose fans for saying something like this? I think that is such a powerful, like, ability and opportunity. And so my kind of ask of these allies, especially people with power, is like finding some, whether it's a small or a big way, to show up for us right now and collaborate, whatever that looks like, because I really think people cannot deny when love is evident. It's so, you know, when there's hate, it's there, but when there is that respect on blast, or when there is that camaraderie, it's tangible and it's real, and I want more of that.
Yeah.
Do you have any go ahead. Do you have any examples of some small acts for our listeners and anybody out there, some great tips on how we can all be more supportive?
Yeah, I think follow some trans content creators other than me, because there's a lot of perspectives out there. And that is, I think, a critique of myself that I have, is that my point of view can be so limiting in my privilege and in the fact that I don't consider myself an activist. And so, you know, my page isn't the one you're going to come to get all the facts, or to get every ounce of gender affirming healthcare information. Sure. Or I think that finding that information from a really trusted source is amazing. I actually just went to this human rights campaign trans creator summit, and we have a video on TikTok that I've tagged all the different creators. But I mean, there was every kind of trans person there. So I think beautiful. That if you can, you know, finding other people to support, and then also advocating for us when we're not in the room, I think is of major importance. I thought about, like, 4th of July was right after Pride Month, and I was like, wow, I know there's going to be a lot of conversations at these barbecues about trans people and making jokes about beer and who's going to show up, you know, who's going to say, hey, Uncle, you know, Tony, we can't, why are you saying that right now? Or that's not appropriate, you know, just because, like I said, people are so comfy being transphobic. And I'm hoping in the, you know, sooner rather than later, but in the next few years, that some of those things that people are saying now will look back on and go, what the hell how did they get away with that? And also digital footprints. Like, people love to talk about this. Parents are like, this stays online forever. And yet they're the ones in the Facebook comments being like, yes, transphobic this, transphobic that. They need to lead by example as well, because they're these things that are online and I make, you know, those videos. I'm sure 10 years from now, I might look back at some of my videos and go, that might be my cringe moment of the week. But at least I know I'm not preaching hate, and I know that I'm not intending to set a bad example. So I want people to be really mindful about their digital footprint. And do you remember that, like, of course you remember, but if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all.
Exactly.
Like, and that is something that I think is deeply surprising to me too, because some of the stuff that's being said, I'm like, I don't think if your mom heard you say that, your mouth might be washed out with soap. Adults are bullies. Adults can be bullies.
100%.
Adults can be bullies. It's so true. Dylan, I really had the opportunity to sit alongside you as you navigated this moment. And I was just curious if you could share, what was the work that you really felt like you did to help you move through it? First question. Because I do have to say, if I can for a minute, from my perspective, the grace, the courage, the love with which you showed up through this was just nothing short of a miracle. The way that you showed up was such an inspiration to me. I know that you say that I'm your guide, but you inspired me through that because you fucking showed up, man. You did the work and you were scared, but you still powered through it. And I can say from a firsthand perspective, you grew so much through it. So I was just wondering if you'd be willing to share what was that inner work you had to do. And also, we're all crying over here.
We're all crying, and I have no tissues. I might wipe it on my dog.
But also, what was the work you had to do? And then also, what did you learn about yourself through this?
Okay, thank you for saying that. And I think I'm surprised that I'm crying right now, but I'm also not, because I always cry when I'm with you. And not in a,
and I cry all the time. So
that's a great advertisement. Thanks, Dylan.
It's also the hormones. I mean, my God. I will say on like a lighter note, I'll be like going through these like crazy, stressful, traumatic moments, and then I also am like, why do I feel this way? And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm on like new hormones in my body.
Exactly.
As well. Like, such a damn double whammy.
Yep.
I think I just started crying because I don't think we actually processed what we went through together. Like, and we still, I think,
it's true.
Because we're still not fully out of the woods. That I just think that so much of me coming to you every week these last few months was me being like, I'm okay. And then I think the actual progress came in the, I'm not okay. I feel scared. I feel alone. I feel like, and it was the honesty between us that really got me through. And I know that you watched me have to make a lot of difficult decisions, but I'm actually going to flip the question. Do you think there is a specific thing that we did together that you saw the most progress for myself?
Pop quiz, Bean. Okay.
I can point to it exactly. I think it was that moment when you stepped into the power of you knowing the right answers. I think you were getting a lot of advice. I think you were getting a lot of advice from a lot of different people, some of which are seen as experts in some way or another. And it was a cacophony, and it was confusing, and it was loud, and it felt like it was hard to find your truth in it all. And it was hard to understand what to say and what to do. And I remember that moment where you connected to, wait a minute, I've got this wisdom and it resides in here and I know it. And it just came pouring out. I think I just asked you simply, you have 13 million followers. What do you want them to know? And you just started telling me. And that moment where you realized, oh, wait, I know how to navigate this. I'm not powerless. I am powerful, even though people are trying to take my dignity and my power. It resides within me. It's not something that they can take. And I know exactly what I think it's the love you have for your followers. I think you understand the responsibility of these people who follow you and love you and what they need from you. And when you stepped into that, you channeled that intuitive wisdom. And then that gorgeous video came out of that you put out. But it was really that taking that power and that wisdom back.
Thank you. I think I was trying to I was trying to communicate with all these people who they weren't Team Dylan. And then you were like, wait, but look at all these people who were Team Dylan. And that's where it was so fun to then make content that was for people that already loved me, because I was so tired and I was so down that I couldn't show up for people that weren't there yet. So and you know what, if there's going to be, and they do, the haters, they still watch my videos, but it's not for them, but they can see how I interact with my people. And I think that is way better than addressing them directly.
I do too. And can I ask you how you are today in this moment?
Yeah. Today I'm now creating out of a place of pure enjoyment and what I feel called to make. And instead I used to like rule with an iron fist saying like, oh my gosh, I need to be making 3 videos a day and and now I do it when I when I want to, and when it feels good, and when I have something to say, and when my higher self is like, I think you need to make a video. It's been, I think what's also crazy is when some of our work, Mory, starts to come through, you know, my content or other clients' content, because there are things that now that I know and that I've worked on that I want to share. I want to figure out how to put my spin on it, not the Mory spin, but the Dylan spin.
Yeah.
And I wish that every person could feel their higher self, could feel their intuition, could feel what it's like to do something in a full body yes. So I feel good. And I think now, you know, I also am hoping to expand kind of what my focus is in life, because it was so driven by like the industry, and right now we're in a strike. So I'm like, okay, what does romance look like right now for me?
Mm-hmm.
What does getting a pet? What is, you know, I've been really social lately. I'm going out with my friends and having fun. And those are all things that are actually going to help my creative endeavors, because I'll be a little bit more filled in other ways.
Yeah. This is so beautiful. Empowering. Now I'm like, what should I do?
Go blonde your hair.
I'm gonna
go lighten your hair. Dylan already told. Yeah, right. Dylan told you. All right, Dylan. Listen, we've taken a lot of your time. We're going to do a quick round of 3 last questions. Okay. I want to ask you specifically. We went and got to see the Barbie movie together. My kids sat next to you. They were just so excited to see this movie with you. And then when we walked out, you said so many eloquent things about how the allegory of the Barbie movie almost related to your own life. Can you just share a little about, like, how did you feel connected to the Barbie movie?
Okay, it's so funny because I feel like, you know, we listen to a song or a movie and we're like, oh my God, that's so me. And I almost felt, I was like, am I really going to make this about me right now? But I did.
That is, I don't want to interrupt. I just want to say that is the sign of really good art, though, that you can see yourself in it.
Agree.
Yes. And that a lot of people can. And I found a parallel in the fact that I'm such a camp person. I love pink. I love polished. I think my aesthetic for so long was this like sort of happy-go-lucky, you know, like take on the world hyper-feminism. And in the movie, we then see a lot of that crumble, and we see a lot more vulnerability. We see emotions that hadn't been tapped into. We see honesty. And I think that's what my past year has been. I think it's been watching, not that I was like a facade at all. I'm very much a real person, and that is such a part of me. I am camp. I am, you know, those things don't have to be bad. But I thought about how in the movie, you know, Barbie has a choice to make, and how I've had to decide, like, do I want to pretend none of this has happened and just go back to like being this happy-go-lucky person? Or do I want to like live with this sadness and see what comes of it, and what it actually helps build me into the person that I'm supposed to be? And so I think I can be camp, and I can be sad, or I can be polished, and I can be angry. I think it really showed me that there is like the idea of patriarchy is something that hasn't really been tackled enough in the mainstream media in ways that like is for us. And I felt, especially, you know, there was a trans Barbie character in there, and yet her transness wasn't the whole, it never came up actually. But I felt so seen by that, and I felt like I had every right to connect to that movie, and that felt really good.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved having my son hear you reflect on it. I could see him just kind of light up. I want to ask you, I'm going to give Bean the last question because I'm such a good bestie.
Why, thank you.
I want to ask you my last question, which is, you are so fucking talented. Like,
language.
I mean, sorry. No, I'm not sorry. You are. And if you watch your 365th day celebration, which, can you still stream that? Can you find that somewhere?
I'm going to put some of it up on YouTube.
Okay. Wow. I remember watching that. My jaw was on the floor because I know you're talented, but just to hear you sing and perform and all of that. So I just want to know, what's next for you? What are you most excited about?
Well, I am excited to go back to like doing what I did when I was 3, which is sing, dance, and act. And
triple threat.
And I think triple threat. Theater is definitely coming in the forefront. I'm auditioning very regularly for theater. I'm excited too. Like, funny enough, in acting, I think I grew up because I was such a feminine young boy that I didn't think I could ever be on like television. And so it's so exciting now to get to like go in for parts and help create characters that are so close to who I am, and help build those out. And to write, I love writing. I think that's going to be a big part of these next few years for me. But I think it's working on projects that expand what I've already done online, but in ways that like, it's been such an isolating, under budgeted experience that now I'm like, ooh, what can I do with the budget? What can I do with other people? What can I do with more connection? So that's what's next for me is kind of taking these next steps into longer form media.
I cannot wait to see what's coming.
I'm truly excited, especially about the Broadway aspect. I'll be there. I'm on the East Coast. I'll be there with bells on. Anyway, I just want to say, first of all, thank you. I've only seen you really in snippets for the most part. I see your TikToks and I see these little clips of you, but listening to you speak so honestly and truthfully has been really beautiful for me. So thank you. 1 and 2, a lot of our podcasts, most of our podcasts is about living your truest self, living as your truest self and tapping into your intuition. And you make that happen every single day. And that's really powerful and courageous. And we love that. And we wanted to sort of leave on the note of what advice do you have for listeners who want to embody their own truths as well and live out loud?
I think intuition has been sort of like a key player in all of these questions and answers.
Yeah.
And I think for my listeners, or for the listeners and my followers, I want them to feel that little like scratch on their back that is something that they feel called to doing, and to go with it, whether it's really small or it's like, you can start small. I think that's it has to sometimes because of the fear of taking big jumps.
Yeah.
But I would just love for them to lean into what feels right to them. What is a full body yes? And then specifically to young people that might be listening, I remember not being able to live my full truth because of the adults in my life. And while there maybe are some decisions right now, or are some things that they're facing that don't feel right to them, but they have to just live because just to survive or just to get by until they too are an adult, I would say just hold on as much as you can to that intuition and to what you know is right, so that when you are in a place to act on that intuition, that it's still there and you don't have to go find it. Because that's what I've done this past year, is trying to go find the things that I lost, and how nice if you already had them with you this entire time. And that's my hope for the younger generation, is that there's less mess to pick up, and personally and on a larger scale, but that they can already have all their ducks in a row and just find their full body yeses.
I love that.
Beautiful advice. I don't think any of us could have said it better. Dylan, I just want to tell you, I am so grateful there is a woman like you out in the world for my kids to look up to navigate womanhood alongside you, to watch you do what you do with such grace and vulnerability and joy is such a gift to all of us. So truly, on behalf of all of your fans, our listeners, me, someone who's invested in you, just thank you for existing in the world the way you do. We love you so much. Thank you for coming on Signal. You made our week.
You definitely our month.
So I love you both. This was amazing. I'm really also like, it just makes me happy that my followers, your listeners, can know this side to me and to all of us, and I feel so good about just being here with you all. So thank you for holding space.
Thank you for taking the time. We love you, Dylan.
Okay.